Today I'm doing a review on a flashlight that I've been wanting to get to for several months now. I've had this light for, I don't know, 6 or 7 months, and it is a fantastic light, and I'm finally getting around to doing a review of it. This, of course, is the HDS Systems 200 lumen rotary light. Now, most people have never heard of HDS lights. Even flashlight people have not probably heard of HDS lights, but if you get into becoming sort of a true flashaholic, I won't claim that I'm one of those, but if you get into that realm and you're on Candle Power forums a lot, this light is extremely popular. This, I think, is the most popular flashlight on the forum. Just as an example of that, there are different threads about different flashlights. The HDS lights have progressive threads, HDS Systems Thread 1, Thread 2, Thread 3, and they all go for a certain amount of pages and then they get closed and we start a new thread, or they start a new thread. So the current thread, HDS Systems number 16, is up to page 56, I believe, and there are 1,700 posts in it. I know thread number 14 went for like 50 pages, and there were 1,400 posts in it. So there is just an insane amount of talk about this flashlight on there, more than any other flashlight on the forum. There's also a lot of posts about this flashlight saying, man, what is the big deal with those HDS lights? Why do I want to buy one of those? What's the big deal with them? And there are, those threads will go on for 7 or 10 pages. So this review, I'm going to do a little bit different than some of my other reviews. Instead of just saying, here's the tail cap, and here's the body, and here's the head, and here's the lens and all that, these lights have so much that goes into them, and so much thought and so much over-engineering in a good way, that I'm going to try and discuss some of that. There's going to be a little bit of educational stuff through this, but I'm just going to get into a little bit more detail about some stuff that I might otherwise usually get into in a basic flashlight review. So for starters, HDS Systems, HDS stands for, they're the initials of the creator, Henry D. Schnecker. Not sure if I got your last name right, Henry, but I apologize if I didn't. Everyone pretty much just refers to him as Henry, and if you call HDS, he is the person that's likely to answer, and he's very friendly to talk to, and certainly obviously knows a lot about these lights because he came up with them. Previously, he had created Novatac lights and RA lights, RA lights. His company is out of Tucson, Arizona, where all of the work is done. He does outsource some of his parts, and some of those do come from out of the country, but almost everything is done from there in Tucson. Now, their lights come in two big styles, the rotaries and the clickies. The rotaries have this rotary tail cap, and the clickies have just, everything's operated by a tail button here. Now, one of the things that makes these lights so popular is that they are just incredibly customizable and have so many different options for what you get. Within each of the models, the rotary and the clicky, there are different brightness levels that you can get. You can get a 120, 140, 170, and 200 lumen versions of the light. You can also get a high color rendering index version of the light. So a light that will work almost like a daylight bulb. It's rated at, has a color temperature of 3,700 degrees Kelvin. So if you need to see things in a more truer color for whatever reason, then you can look into the HCRI option. You can then get just a ton of other options. There's an infrared version, 850 nanometers. You can get it, you can buy just the off-the-shelf versions, like this one. This is a 200 lumen rotary. Or you can say you can get it with a tail button that sticks out or one that's flush. You can get obviously the rotary versus the clicky. Up on the front here, you can get a polished silver bezel or this titanium aluminum nitride bezel. You can get a glass lens or a sapphire lens. It's just, there's a ton of options you can get, and you can have Henry custom build you a light to whatever specifications you need or whatever you're looking for. So let's get into the size of this. So just for reference, I'm going to bring in some other lights. All right, so these are some lights that some people may be aware of, just to give you an idea of size. This is a Zebra Light SC, is it 31 or 51? I can't remember. Phoenix PD20, Sunway Man V11R, of course the HDS light, Phoenix PD31, and a Phoenix TK15. So you can see the HDS light, it's not super small, but still plenty small to carry in your pocket as an everyday carry light. It's a little bit chunky. It's 1 inch thick and 3.7 inches with the flat tail button, 3.9 inches with the raised tail button, and weight is 3.6 ounces or 102 grams, and that includes the battery. Let's have a look at the construction of it now. So the tail cap here, you can get either the one with the raised tail button, or there is an option for a flat tail button. This is the rotary because on the back here, the tail cap spins or rotates, and that is how you control the brightness levels. The way it stops is you get around to here, and there is this screw, and this little piece right here runs into the screw, and that stops it. Same on the other side, comes around, runs into the screw, and that's how you get from dim to bright. The body of it, it's aluminum, and it has military Type 3 hard anodized coating. Now, you know, a lot of flashlights have that Type 3 hard anodized coating, and I think a lot of people just kind of throw that out there, hey, this flashlight has it. But does anyone really know what that means? Anyone? Raise your hand. Someone in the back there. One person, okay. Well, I'm just going to talk about it just because I want to show a lot of the thought that has gone into this light. Now, that this hard anodizing isn't necessarily something big because a lot of lights have it, but there are a couple common types of anodizing. Anodizing in general, it's a layer of oxidation done by an electrochemical process, produces kind of a crystalline layer on top of whatever is being anodized, in this case the flashlight, and it makes it very tough and scratch resistant. So there's two common types of anodizing. Type 2, which is kind of a thin, decorative coating, can be dyed in lots of vibrant colors, but it's pretty thin, relatively delicate, and easily penetrated with sharp objects, and even will eventually kind of wear off. Type 3, which is the tougher kind, often referred to as hard anodizing or military hard anodizing. It's a thick, usually dark olive by nature, very scratch resistant, it wears very well. It can be dyed in different colors, but usually the colors will come out kind of muddy. So usually people will just dye them black because even the olive apparently can be hard to match the different dye lots. And so most lights are just dyed black, and that makes it pretty consistent. So this has the Type 3 hard anodized aluminum, again makes it pretty scratch resistant. It can still be scratched, as you can see here, but again, it's just kind of toughens it up some. Moving down to the bezel here, there's two options for the bezel. There's a polished silver bezel, or this one here has an aluminum titanium nitride coating. It's a dark colored vapor deposition coating. It's put on in a vacuum. And this is a type of coating that they use to coat machine tools, drill bits, a lot of things that will be under a lot of wear. And this actually wears tougher than the hardened steel and outperforms that Type 3 anodizing. So very tough. Puts this kind of non-glossy, almost hint of a purple black hue to the bezel. It's a very nice look. But if you don't like that, you can get the polished silver. The bezel is crenellated, and that's useful, I suppose, if you need to use it as a striking weapon, or if it's on, you can see that it's on underneath there if you happen to set it down. Moving up to the lens. The lens, there's two options for the lens. You can get a glass lens or a sapphire lens. Sapphire, which is what watch crystals are made out of, is very tough, very scratch resistant. So you can upgrade the lens if you want. Even the glass that they come with this is very tough. The lens is anti-reflective coated on both sides. So just a thought here, the lens will reflect some light back. So at every air lens surface, so here's the lens, every air lens surface you get, so you have the LED here, it's emitting light at the lens, there's an air lens surface here and an air lens surface here. Every one of those not treated is going to reflect about 4% of light back, and so you're going to lose about 8% of light on a regular non-coated lens. Doing the anti-reflective coating on the lens lets about 97% of the light pass through, so you're really trying to get as much light out of this as you can. That AR coating on the front of the lens actually can be somewhat delicate and can be scratched off if you use even some apparently like paper towels on it. It can wear it off from what I understand. So just be kind of, take a little bit of care with that. Even if you scratch it all off and apparently only reduces what you're seeing, what you're getting, the light that you're getting out of it by about 3%, so it shouldn't be too bad overall. The reflector, it doesn't really have an orange peel, I wouldn't say, but it does have just a slight texturing. If you can kind of see it there. Just it's a deep reflector, kind of just slightly textured. All right, so a little bit more on the construction of this. Back here, this is where the battery compartment is, and then up front here is where in the head is where all the electronics are. Just to show you on the inside here, the threads, it has Acme threads, and the threads are trapezoidal. I'll talk about these Acme threads in just a minute. The battery compartment here, it has springs on both sides, so that springs there, spring here. I'm going to put this back on because the flashlight resets back to factory if it's out for more than 60 seconds. But just real briefly, the Acme threads, there's two types of threads that you can use. There's regular V-shaped threads, and then there's Acme threads, which are trapezoidal. The trapezoidal Acme threads are superior in every respect to the conventional V-shaped ones. They're going to be a lot tougher. They're not going to have the tendency to cross-thread. They're going to last longer. They're used in pretty much all precision machinery, and Henry, in his quest to make this very super robust, overly engineered light, has used the Acme threads in this because they are the best threads available. So again, just more thought that he's put into this light to make it super tough. The electronics on the inside here are potted. Now, potted electronics, what that does is it covers the electronics, usually with a layer of silicone, and this protects the electronics from vibration, shock, water, moisture, even can electrically insulate them. So some people have said that this light will actually survive an EMP blast and will still work because the electronics are potted. Whether it will or not, I honestly don't know. Maybe someone smarter than me or Henry can chime in there if you're concerned about an EMP going off in your area. But again, just one more nice extra thing that's put into this flashlight. All right, let's move on to the brightness of this. So this light comes in several options, like I mentioned, 120, 140, 170, and 200 lumen versions. Now, which one should you get, and how much of a difference is there in the output between all of them? So a little bit of eye physiology here. Your eyes respond to light in a logarithmic type fashion. So that means you need a large difference in the light output for your eyes to see just a perceived small difference. Generally, it takes 41% increase in the actual light output for your eyes to see just a small amount of difference. So that would be the 120 to 170 jump or the 140 to 200, but your eyes are generally not going to notice the difference between the 20% of the 120 to 140, the 140 to 170, or the 170 to 200. So just some thoughts there on how the eyes work, how the brightness levels work, and maybe which one you might want to buy. Speaking of which one you might want to buy and how that relates to the brightness levels, let's talk about the run times. So Henry doesn't really publish run times for his lights. He doesn't really say, at least from what I've seen, the 200 lumen version will go at 200 lumens for 2 hours or whatever. I think it would be tough because I think this light has 28 levels of brightness from what I remember, something close to that. So there's not really numbers posted, but the way LEDs work is that the differences in LED efficiency have a big effect on the run times. Generally, the amount of power needed to generate the maximum amount for each light is the same in all cases. So the amount of power to power the 140 lumen version at 140 is the same amount of power used to power the 200 lumen version at 200. It's just that the LED here is more efficient, so it's able to get up to 200. Now with that, using that same level of power, these lights are going to run much more efficiently at a lower level of output. So even just backing this down one level, it's going to run almost twice as efficient. Putting that into kind of real world thoughts, a 200 lumen light run at back down to 140 will have about twice the runtime as a 140 lumen light run at 140. Just because that 140 lumen light is really pushing the battery and the power supply and the LED kind of past their optimum points to achieve that maximum output. Whereas this 200 lumen light is running much more efficiently at a lower output. The one runtime test that I saw, I found on one of the forums, a guy did it at 13 lumens because he thought that was kind of his most common area of use. He did it with a 140 clicky and a 200 rotary and did it at 13 lumens. And what he found was that before the flashlight stepped down one level of brightness, which is one of the things that it does tell you it's running out of juice, that clicky, the 140 clicky, went 20 hours and 7 minutes, and the 200 went 27 hours and 59 minutes. So relating that to what I just said, that 13 lumens percentage-wise of 200 is lower than 13 as a percent of 140. So that 200 lumen light is going to run more efficiently at 13 lumens, and by that you're getting an extra 8 hours out of it. So hopefully all that kind of made sense. I know that was a lot of information there, but again, just want to be kind of detailed and talk about all the thought that goes into these lights, and pretty much all this information can be found on Henry's website. I'm just trying to get some of the salient points out and give you something to think about with them. Let's talk about the user interface now. So one of the places where this light really excels is that it is super customizable and has a lot of options for how you can turn it on and the different brightnesses you can turn it on to. The programming, it comes with this book, and you can flip through the book and it'll tell you how to put it into programming mode and how to set the different options. And admittedly, my brain hurt after I did it because it seemed like it was kind of complicated. But once you get it down, it's not too bad. You get it programmed and it's done, and you're good to go. So let's talk about how this works. So on and off is done with the tail cap, and you can program it to come on in a couple of different ways. You can do a momentary on or a constant on. Press and hold and let go. It's going to do momentary on. Press and hold. No matter how hard you press or how long you hold it for, it's always going to do momentary. If you just tap it, it will stay on. So people, if you want to use this in a tactical role, as a weapon light, you can do momentary on as much as you want, and it works very well. And then you can again just tap it and it will go into constant on. Now what it comes on to from that initial on, you can program that just like you can with anything else. You can program it to come on to a specific brightness, or in my case, I have it programmed to come on to whatever I have this tail cap rotated to. So I can either have it come on to the full brightness, or if I rotate the tail cap down some, I can have it come on to a lower brightness. From off, you have access to 2 levels of brightness, whatever your primary one is, and then you also have access to the maximum. And the way you get to the maximum is you do a click and hold. So click and hold, and that will put it to the maximum. This is again acting as a momentary on, so you let go of it and it goes off. So again, click and hold, maximum. Then from on, you have access to all 4 levels. So to go to full brightness, you just hold it down, it goes to full brightness, you let go, and it goes back to whatever you're at. You can then take the tail cap, and one of the nice things about this light is that everything can be done one-handed without changing your hand position. So many other lights, you turn it on, and then either you have to change your hand position and rotate the bezel, or move it around and press a button up here. But this light, because of the way this tail cap works, you turn it on and everything can be done one-handed. Just a very nice design. So once it's on, you can go to your second level of brightness, which in my case is 13 lumens, and you get to that by double-clicking. It goes down to the 13 lumens. Again, if you want to go to full brightness, press and hold, and it goes back. Third level of brightness for me is the strobe. You get to that by triple-clicking. 1, 2, 3, goes into the strobe. Again, you can program all of those to anything you want. Some other nice things that are built into this, it has a low battery warning. So if you turn this on to a full brightness or whatever brightness it's at, if the flashlight recognizes that the battery does not have enough power to power that brightness, the light will flash off and back on to 1 brightness level lower. And then once you get there, it'll double blink every 2 minutes. So again, several things built into this light to kind of help you know that the battery is going, because some of my other lights, especially with these CR123s, you're going and then just suddenly the light's dead. So at least with this you get some warning. Again, just some nice things that are built into those electronics. There's also a burst mode. So you put it into the full output, it will stay on that for 40 seconds, and then it will jump down one brightness level. Now, one brightness level, it's not that much. You know, it's 200 down to about 140. There's the difference. So it's not much visually, but it's a huge difference in the battery life. Speaking of the brightness levels, let me show you one other thing that's kind of gone into this, and I'm going to turn the lights all the way off here. So going from full dim, as I twist the head, you can see that the battery, or the light, is coming up not smoothly, but in increments. And the increments that it is coming up in is 1.4 to 1. So each level of brightness is 40% brighter than the level before. And as I mentioned, that is what your eye needs in order to be able to tell a small difference in the brightness. So again, just another thing very intelligently built into this light. So overall impressions of this light. You know, this light is crazy tough. The user interface is just superb. This light has become my most common light. It's, for the most part, the only light I'll carry at the hospital, because on a lot of other lights, the low output is just too bright. 8 lumens looking into someone's eyes, they don't like that. On this, I can say, okay, I'm looking in your eyes, let me bump it down some. Okay, now we're looking in your throat, let's bump it up. And I can do that all one-handed without changing hand positions. So super elegant, super useful. It is just super quality. And so the price, I guess, kind of reflects that. The 120 lumen version of this sells for $99. The 200 lumen version of this sells for $199. So okay, those are not small prices. You'll say, but I can get this 190 lumen Phoenix compared to this 200, and this is only $60 or $70. Yeah, you can, and this will, you know, maybe do you just fine for your needs, but you get so much more with this HDS light than you do out of almost any of these other lights. People talk in the threads on Candle Power forums that, you know, when the people say, what's so great about this light? And a lot of people will say, man, you're just not going to understand until you buy one. And then once people buy one, they end up buying 3 or 4 of them. You know, why you need more than one, it would probably be hard to understand, but people will get different models. They'll get the HCRI, they'll get a clicky, they'll get a rotary, because people are just so in love with all the features that these lights have. A lot of people say once they bought one of these lights, they almost don't need to go buy other lights because these lights are just that good. So yes, it's not cheap, but what you get for your money, I think, is worth it if you can kind of get to the price. How about some improvements? There are a few places where this could be improved. My biggest gripe with this is that there's no pocket clip. And the clickies have a pocket clip, but the rotary doesn't have one. And the way the pocket clip, I believe, sticks into the clickies is that it goes underneath the tail cap. The rotary, because the tail cap twists, there's not really a good way to do that. Henry tells me they're working on a tail cap or a pocket clip for it, and they have some prototypes, but still going to be several more months before they get one out. So for me, in the meantime, I've taken this clip from a Phoenix PD20, and I've put it on there. It's not horrible on there. It's actually pretty functional, but I would like a clip that actually was made for the light. I've tried several other Phoenix clips, and this is the one that worked best out of the bunch. I tried the ones out of the TK15 and the PD31. This Phoenix PD21 seems to work the best. What else? It is a pretty chunky light. If I could change something else about it, maybe I would like it to be, maybe I'd like it to be just a little bit smaller, just a little bit thinner, a little bit less hefty. But you can definitely tell the quality with it, and it is super tough. I think it could take pretty much anything that you could throw at it as far as beating it up wise. Availability is perhaps the biggest complaint with these lights right now. Henry, he is so strict on the tolerances that he wants for these lights because he has such high standards for what he wants to build these lights to specification-wise that when shops make parts for him, if they are not built to his tolerances very specifically, he'll reject them. And he's apparently rejected a lot of shops. And because of that, the wait times on these lights can be quite long. If you can actually find one of these lights to buy anywhere right now, you're doing pretty well. I looked just before I started making this video. I couldn't find one for sale anywhere. I know people that have had some on order through Henry have been waiting even 6 or 7 months, but they all think that it's probably going to be worth it. And from owning one, It's a long wait, but it is a fantastic light. Hopefully Henry can eventually get his parts issues worked out and get back into a strong production, because again, these are just fantastic lights. So there you have it, the HDS 200 Rotary. It's been a long video, but again, just want to talk about a lot of details with this light because it is just a fantastic light. All the stuff that's built into it, all the features, all the thoughts, just a super tough light. So check it out. HDS Rotary, HDS Clicky. Fantastic lights.